I'm just going to say that motorcycles, in my opinion, are definitely going to have a comeback. You know why? Because it's going to be an essential, cheaper way getting transportation, get yourself from point A to point B. You know, the problem is the United States that motorcycles are kind of like recreational. I think back in, you know, before World War II and right after World War II, they were kind of like, you know, cheaper transportation, people just to get someplace and all that kind of stuff. But the thing is that it really grew out of that into like kind of like having a one of those jet skis or something like that. It's not really something that's super essential. Now this is my other bike I got a year and a half ago. Is like as an extra bike, and it's a Sportster, an 883. My main bike is a Sportster too, but I like Sportsters. But let me say this about Sportsters, man. In my opinion, you know, when you're riding a Sportster, it's like riding a horse. When you're riding a big one, it's like riding a buffalo. I mean, it depends on how big you are. I mean, if you're like 6'5" and above, you're not going to be riding a Sportster, you know. But if you're more like me, well below 6 feet, I'm 5'8". I fit on this thing absolutely perfect. So you know, it's cool for me, and I got no problem going distances. Now this bike, this is the 883, and like I said, I think on some other videos, I did some little stuff to it. Like I don't know, just put a little windshield on it. I turned a windshield guy after a few years ago when I got one after resisting getting a windshield for like decades. I said, why did I ever get one of those? So I put one of those on. It's like a quick disconnect. It's pretty good. I mean, if you get some freaking serious rain, that windshield helps you out a lot. But you get over 50 miles to the gallon with this thing, no problem. And I just want to point out, okay, this is an 883. Man, I heard, you know, the guys that ride bikes, they really don't give you a lot of crap about the 883. I mean, I swear to God, it's the guys that don't ride bikes. They'll tell you it's a girl's bike, it's a half a Harley, blah, blah, blah. And don't ever go by that garbage, man. I rode some of the Japanese bikes a little bit. I mean, they're fine, they work, but there seems to be like way less torque below at the lower levels. So like you got this horsepower curve that goes along, and they'll tell you the peak horsepower is this, but the horsepower all the way along is a lot more steady on a Harley. So it's like you don't have to shift gears so much. It just takes off from a low RPM. As long as you're running like 2,000 RPM even, it takes off pretty good. Now even this 883, to give you some retrospect, you know, because like I'm older, right? So I'm 70. So I kind of remember some stuff from way back. This 883 actually it's pretty peppy because, well, I didn't put these on there. These were like turnouts, slip-ons, but they're the Harley Davidson ones. So they're tuned right. In other words, sometimes you put slip-ons and they don't work right. These are pretty good. They work good with the stock exhaust system with the crossover. So it's almost as good as a 2-to-1, you know, with that crossover with these slip-ons. It's got the Vance and Hines air cleaner. I didn't put that on there. The guy that sold me the bike had it on there. But then I found out the slide wasn't working in the carburetor and with the vacuum diaphragm. But I put a real basic kit from CV Performance in the carburetor, and just the intake, the Vance and Hines air filter stuff, the slip-ons from Harley, and the CV Performance carb tune. This thing's got some pretty good power. I don't know what it's got exactly, 55 horsepower, and in the cubic inches are 54. 883 is like 54. But if you go back to 1975, when you had like a full-size Harley, you know, a shovel head, and you know the bike had to weigh probably 700 pounds or more. The bikes were only doing like, I don't know, 58, 60 horsepower or something. I mean, they were modified most of the time, but I mean, from the factory, you know, bike would weigh at least 200 pounds more than this thing. So this 883 was faster than like even an 80 cubic inch shovel head. You know, I mean, I know back in the day, nobody rode baggers and stuff. They used to take everything off the bikes, and baggers was like garbage barges. Everybody, I don't know, times have changed, but the what the heck was it? You know, they'd strip them down. So I mean, so if you say you're looking at these factory specifications on bikes, they really didn't mean nothing because nobody kept the bikes that stock, and they would always take stuff off to lower the weight. A lot of people were running the rigid frames and stuff. So the bike, you could have like the big Harley, and it could weigh as much as a Sportster. Then they have like the 93-inch S&S Sidewinder stroker kit in there with your cams and stuff, man. And it's a really fast bike. But I'm talking about the stock Harleys, the big ones. This little 883 from 1991 with just these little doodads on it, it's probably faster than them. So it is fast enough. It's slow today, but it's not slow. It's like, I don't know. But I say that these bikes are going to have a comeback, just due to basic necessity. I just hope that people get a little more not afraid to get dirty and get some rain on them or do some greasy work on the bike or something. That's probably to be the number one thing that's going to stop them from coming back really fast. But people are the same as they always were. It's just a different generation. They'll figure it out. But these older Evo Sportsters are a lot simpler. I wish when it came out with the rubber mount in 2004 that they had the transmission where you could pull it out without splitting the cases. To me, I would never get a 2004 and up Sportster for that reason, ever. So this one, I was lucky with this because this guy, I was going to have to come down and get the bike. He actually delivered it for me. He was on his way up to Daytona. He had another bike in the back. He had a dirt bike in his trailer, and he's towing it up to Daytona. But this is the only Evo Sportster 5-speed that came with factory with a chain. Some people go, that's terrible, but I like the chain. I don't know. I like the chain. I don't want the belt. Why? I don't know. Maybe that's just my opinion or something, but it's got a chain. So like in 91 when it came out the 5-speed, they all had belts, except for the 883. And I think the 883 Deluxe even had a belt. But the regular 883 had a chain in 91, and the 1200 had a belt. In 92, they all had belts. So this is the last of the chain drive from the factory Sportsters. But this is a good little bike. The only thing, I don't want to do this because it's right now, but I was thinking it's sometime in the future. I do want to put the lead sled kickstart on this. Like, it's an 883, so it's not going to be that hard to kick. But it's really, they got even now where you don't have to fabricate the bracket for the mid controls, because I like the mid controls, and just use the highway pegs if you want. But I almost always use mid controls, right? But the bracket, they sell the bracket even, so you can keep the mid controls, and they drill out the sprocket cover if you want it. It's not that much, so it's basically a bolt-on, except you got to press out the trap door from the transmission to change out your main shaft. They give you an Andrews main shaft too, which is cool for the transmission. But the reality is it's a little more than that, because if you're going to kickstart it, you want either points, which I'm not going to go. I got points I got kept in my saddlebag on my other bike, but just in case the electronic blows out. But you want a single fire ignition. So that single fire ignition will run you $400. You're talking the kit's going to be, with all the stuff on it, probably $1,200. And then when you're in there, you probably want to check out all the parts in the transmission. Everything's cool, and probably change some clutch parts. And what I also would want to do is I'd want to put the bigger starter in there, because the 1200 starter is like out to here. It's bigger. And the reason it's like that is because it's a 1200 and it's got more to turn over. So I would change that out while this was out, but I'm not doing this for probably at least 1.5 years if I do this. But I would kind of like to do it because it's good having a backup system, and it does make it look like it makes it like an older school Harley, chain drive, kickstart, and all that. It's amazing how times change, because it's like in the 80s, they would say, if you don't have a jockey shift and a kickstart, and you're running a front brake and stuff, you're not running, and you're running a hardtail, you're not running a hardtail, you're a pussy. They don't always say stuff. I mean, now it's actually kind of like, it is harder to ride. I mean, not saying this is an uncomfortable bike. This has got the Mustang Steed on it too. And I could ride it a few hundred miles. I mean, I really don't go over 300 miles. I mean, I really have no reason to do that. That's why I don't go over 300 miles. But I don't have any problem riding at 300 miles. But like, I go two something usually, right? But usually under 300, right? And I got no problem doing that. But most people would not. They would find that pretty hard to do on one of these older Sportsters because they vibrate more and stuff, and you know they got a shorter wheelbase, and this one's even got the Hugger shocks in the back, which brings it down lower. So, you know, relative to today, this is kind of like, I mean, it's not a hardtail, but it's almost like back in the day, this would have been a real pussy bike, you know. You know, today they would still say it is because it's an 83, but they would say this was like the real pussy bike because it's not a hardtail, it's not a kickstart, it's not a you know jockey shift and stuff like that. You know, I mean, you know, you're running a chain guard, you're pussy. You know, that's what they do. Is always give it crap about. It's amazing how much everything changed, and I think it's because the generations are getting softer, and then maybe that's why they're not riding as much because people don't, you know. You know, they don't want to get wet. Oh, I just want to point out this. You know what? I've done this before my motorcycle time when I was on a bicycle all the time. I used to just take a trash bag with me. You know, if you get caught out in the rain, you're freezing your butt off. I mean, if you don't have any rain gear or nothing, you know, because rain gear takes up room. Even if you like, I think I got some rain gear even in this one. I think I got the top jacket part, and I got the whole full suit in the other one, and I think I got a trash bag in here too. But the thing is, even if you just take a trash bag, which you can roll up like, you know, the size of a pack of cigarettes, man, I'll save your butt from freezing your butt off, man, all the time. And, you know, even if you go into a store and you pick up, you know, one of those bags they got from there, you can put that over your hands and stuff so you keep your hands from freezing. But I think a lot of people they have gotten a lot softer. I think that's really why they're not riding. But I think, though, as our economy gets all screwed up, these are going to come back. And this bike, these Harleys are going to be around because of the machinists and stuff and the, you know, dedicated Americans. They're going to be around for like a lot of years. They're not going to go away. You know, despite the CEO being an idiot, you know, it's not going to go away. I'm not showing you my whole bike because I got certain symbols on here that I can't display on YouTube because they don't like them. Oh, I was thinking this too. I want to point this out. You know, they talk about clubs and stuff, and you know, there's different things. You know, one thing you should always do is always have a group that has everybody's got some kind of specialist mechanical skills, or at least a tow vehicle, and have your AAA insurance up to date, because you know, when you got, you know, one guy's got a hydraulic press. I got a hydraulic press and a mini mill and stuff and some special tools. I don't have that much, but I got some junk, you know. And, you know, you add that all up, it's like, you know, everybody can be up and running a lot more. And, you know, this is the reason I actually got this bike, was because, you know, I was thinking about putting more and more money into my other bike just to try to just change parts out and make it more and more reliable. But this whole bike cost $2,000. I mean, I did change that gas tank to 3.8 gallon, so it was a little more than 2,000, and a couple other things, the risers and stuff. But, you know, getting a whole bike, you know, there's your backup, you know. But I really like this little freaking 883. To tell you the truth, I like this bike. This bike is, I mean, everybody talks down on these stupid things, man. This is a good little bike, man. I swear to God, anybody saying a Harley's too expensive, you know, this would, they're stupid for getting rid of the 883. I can say that right now. But there's plenty of these things around. I don't know if they're going to be around forever though, but I would get one of these puppies, man. If you don't have a bike and you're thinking about getting this and that, get the 883. But I would totally avoid, maybe not, but unless it's a really low mileage primo one owner one. But I don't like the 2004 and up with where you can't take the transmission out without splitting the cases. That is a deal breaker, big time for me. But maybe it might not be. I mean, you might be able to get you know, the transmissions on these are supposed to be pretty good, so you know, it might not be a deal breaker. But in my opinion, it is. But I wouldn't. Bikes are going to come back. I'm almost sure of it because it's no longer going to be a matter of recreation. It's going to be a matter of you want to walk or you want to freaking ride. And I know they got electric bikes, but they are not. If you get an electric bike today that's got some kind of range and you can take it out on the highway, it's way cheaper to get this. Way cheaper. And you know, you're talking. I mean, I don't know what it gets. I checked it out. I mean, before I did the carburetor, it was getting 57 miles to the gallon. Maybe it gets 53, but that's good. That's better than a Prius gets, right? And you could stick your backpack on here. You know, I got like a backpack. I can loop around the arm handles around here and stuff. I mean, I remember taking like bike, you know, just seeing how much junk I could put on a bike, you know, but I was only going like 5 miles. I'd have it stacked up like, you know, 5 feet high and stuff. Even went out to Sissy Bar holding it down. And, you know, you take your, you know, if you take some of those, you know, the Army calls them duffel bags and the Marine Corps calls them sea bags. You get a couple of those, you lay them across this way. You can fit a lot of stuff in there, including stuff that's like weird shapes. So it could be very, very practical. I mean, I kind of don't like YouTube sometimes. I'm not saying all the channels, but a lot of the channels with the bikes are always emphasizing stuff that, in other words, I think the Americans should be more like the Europeans and Asians with the bike. Use it as transportation. Just get out there and ride. Now, it's not. It's don't. You know, recreation's fine. They're fun, right? But it should be, you know, just riding. It's just like your car, you know. And this bike, I always pull this. This one I don't use as much. You notice I kind of pull it in. It's like on a hill here. Getting it out is easy. Getting it in is kind of a pain. But you know, I take them out all the time. So my other one's over there. Anyway, over now.